who will be touching on laborers together with God. You see that in 1 Corinthians, 4 Corinthians, I think there's S here. There's S here. Yeah. Corinthians chapter 3, verse 9 to 11. We'll just look at that bit. And then we'll look at 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 13, and then 18, and then 27. I'll make some comments in between, such as what Apostle Paul was saying preceding these verses. Yeah. It is a familiar verse of the New Testament, part of the writings of Apostle Paul. Most Christians know this. Like what I was saying, we can't keep revolving on this. And people are not seeing changes in their spiritual life. People are not noticing some spiritual awakening, which the Bible talks about. And maybe they have been reading the Word. They know every part of the Word. Yeah. So that's why I'll be digressing from time to time to teach the practical aspect of Christianity and the things we are supposed to know as Christians. Okay, here in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 9, Apostle Paul was trying to draw the attention of the Christians at the time concerning the body of Christ. As Christians, we are members of the body of Christ. So whatever we are doing in this body of Christ, that we are not doing it alone, we are laboring together with God or Christ. And it is important to understand this also from the context in which Paul explained this. At that time, the socio-economic system is not the way we have it today. People were just basically concerned with trying to know about the future, or maybe to know whether they should believe in God, and if so, how do we worship Him and all that. That was the major areas that people were focusing on that time. They didn't have all these diverse sectors of any economy of the modern time that engage millions of people, in our modern world. So people's minds were revolving around religion, and many wars or battles we also notice in history, in the history of the church, or maybe in world history. We are just based on religious differences. Yeah. Unlike today, there may be battles or wars based on differences in political ideology or economic, social and political ideologies. But at that time, religion became like part of the biggest institutions in the society or in the cities of that time. In other words, this is trying to inform us as Christians that we are not alone when we are in this journey of either of spreading the gospel, understanding the word, deepening our Christian life, and doing whatever it takes to ensure that our faith remains stable. So he wants us to know that we are not alone. At that time when the gospel was still being spread, it has not reached all parts of the world. And then he didn't like the kind of divisions or misunderstanding that were transpiring in certain Christian groups. So, and for that reason, when he was writing this, he was rebuking some Christians in Corinth in his writing, because he heard that they don't seem to be cooperating well with each other. So preceding this, this verse 9, you find that Apostle Paul was pointing out them that now they have divided themselves in such a way that these ones say that we belong to Paul, these other ones say we belong to Apollo. Whether you belong to Paul or whether you belong to Apollo, they are all serving the same God. And then he used the example of that the person who plants and waters what he planted, and the person who does the harvesting, that they are doing the same job in order to reap from those plants. But now, neither the person who planted, nor the person who will harvest caused the plant to grow. That it is God that does that. And for that reason, the question of I belong to this and I belong to that shouldn't be a source of division in the body of Christ. So that's when he said we are laborers together with him. But we may be doing different jobs within that body, according to how we would have been positioned by the Lord. So Paul pointed out that when you are saying you belong to this or you belong to that, that you are still in the flesh. We are baptized into one spirit. Yeah. So whether it is this group or that group, you are serving Christ. You are a component of the body of Christ. That's why I also felt this should be linked with this, how the body of Christ is like one body. One body. Each of us, we have one body. But this body has various parts. And all these various parts, they work together for the well-being of this one body. Yeah. When something happens to a particular part of the body, the whole body feels it, and the whole body will remain restless and pay attention to, they will all make effort to see that that part of the body is healed, so that now every other part of the body can have peace of mind and rest. Yeah. So that's why I want to link that. I think maybe. So if I'm explaining something concerning so I explain it, and then I connect it to the other areas or issues that I want to link it with, and then it helps us to have a picture. But there are many chapters and verses of the New Testament that connects with this expression. If you go to the internet, you will see. But if in a service, we keep moving from John, we go to Matthew, we go to Colossians, and then after that, the sermon is over. We just rehearsed what was there. There will be nothing learned out of that. Because we know these things already. Yeah. So that's why we will be focusing more here on those areas many groups are not paying attention to it, those areas that will help deepen our spiritual life. There's a reason why in the past, not even up till now, human beings have tried various approaches to see if it will lead to spiritual enlightenment. The emphasis here is that even in a group, a small group like this, it is part of the body of Christ. Within the body of Christ, people have different gifts. from verse 12 of that chapter 12, 1 Corinthians. For as the body is one, has many members, and all the members of the one body, though they are many, they are one body. So also is Christ. For by one Spirit we were all immersed into the body, whether Jews or Greeks, whether bond servants or free persons. We are all made to drink from one Spirit. Okay, that verse just tells us part of what I've said already. And then if we go to 18, we just touch on 18. 18 says, but now God has set the members, each of them in the body, just as he has desired. In other words, the body here is just making reference to the church. And so people play different roles according to how God positions different people differently within the body of Christ. That's now the church. And how this happens is it comes out more through the gifts. Yeah, that's why if you go to 27 and if you read from 27, you will see, now you are the body of Christ and members individually. You are the body of Christ and members individually. So each group, each Christian group is part of it. It's like an individual body that is part of the body of Christ. And God has designated some in the church. You see, God has designated some in the church. First, apostles, second, prophets, third, teachers, then miracles, then gifts of healing, helps, administration, and varieties of languages. Are all apostles, are all prophets, are all teachers, are all workers of miracle. So what I want to point out here is that you see, the body of Christ here is being explained in terms of the church. Yeah. And the various stations or roles that people play within that body come out maybe from the different gifts that maybe individuals have. So I want to apply this and this to the world the way it is today. Yeah. To the world the way it is today. Because we are supposed to understand this from a very wide perspective. From a very wide perspective. Today, Christians are all over the world. At the time Apostle Paul wrote this, they were not all over the world. I don't even know whether Rome has been completely Christianized at that time. Yeah. But today, Christians are all over the world, and they are supposed to see themselves as one body. And they are supposed to know what is implied in being a Christian. So we find that in today's world, as Christians, you cannot live without others who are not Christians. Yeah. You can't live without others who are not of the same faith. So there is this interdependence. So we need them, and they also need us. Yeah. There may be on other paths also through which they are seeking God. Yeah. So in today's world, people are beginning to understand with this analogy, when it is applied to society or the world as a global village, that what is happening in one world affects the whole world within a short time. Affects the whole world within a short time. Technology has made that possible. So, and that is why many world leaders today, they observe that it's not about whether that civil war is taking place in a third world country. Eventually, it will begin to affect the advanced countries. So when we look at what is happening today in Syria, for example, it's now that the whole world, they are trying to now wake up, because they are seeing that with time, there will be no country that may not have some of its citizens that are part of this group. Yeah. And as long as they have the money, the kind of money they have, they will find a way to go and train and come back. Yeah. So what was seen earlier as a civil war is now something that will place every society somehow to be insecure across the world. So the earlier the world leaders and also the body of Christ, also much of what the body of Christ can do, maybe through prayers, and then those that are in key positions where important decisions can be made. Yeah. Need to play a very important role to be able to arrest what is going on now. So the whole world now is like one body, and the different countries are like the part of that body. What affects a certain part of the body affects the rest. Also, we have noticed that the different countries are endowed with different natural and human resources, blessings. There are resources that are found in one region only, and the whole world needs that. It's not about just the Christian body. So our minds as Christians, it's not just to be revolving around. We are supposed to show concern for what is happening in the modern society and in different parts of the world. I will explain more on this as we progress to a certain level, where I will explain why we should pay attention to the headlines of the world news and of also newspapers. Yeah. In the past, Christians, some groups, they don't participate in election, and they cut off themselves from the affairs of the world. But so as Christians, our minds should be, do you produce the shoes that you wear as a member of that denomination? The food you eat, are you the one, the various ingredients that you go and pick in the market? The shirts, what you put on, yeah, do you have your own textile factory? And then you feel that you don't want to be part of the world in the name of religion. No. Ensure that the practical value of our being on that part of Christhood makes its impact on events in the world. That's why the hierarchy, the teaching concerning hierarchy, have explained how they rely on the light bearers, if the light bearers do something. So as light bearers, we have an assignment, which I intend to, maybe, as I said, maybe in future. But it can even be going on side by side before I come to those teachings. As you open the newspaper, or you listen to the headline in some of the world media, you are supposed to start making calls immediately. Yeah, you start making calls for intervention immediately. One thing we should understand with this call, something, you don't need to try to understand whether you are right or wrong. It is the light of God. If the decisions or whatever is happening there is right, the light of God will not move against that. Yeah. The light of God will not move against that. So, like, if they are making certain decisions, maybe they said yes, they are going to decide this or that, maybe in Vienna, concerning how to resolve these issues. It may be the wrong decision, or it may be the right decision. But you don't need to, yours is to make a call that whatever they are doing there, let it be according to the will of God. And invoke the archangels to surround that place and let people cut their coats, leaders, according to their size. But these are some of the things that we're pointing out in future. And the local newspapers, the headlines, it's bad news. That's what the media produces. Yeah. So you are able to make a call. Don't think that, who am I to make this call? No, that's your call can, with the calls and prayers of both Christians and also innocent Muslims who are also praying. They don't like what is going on, and people of other religions. All this, it helps to build up the light now we are talking of that will resist darkness. Yeah. Don't say, that's why we may sing some songs and say, do not grow weary. That do not grow weary is pregnant. Yeah. Don't say you are alone, but do these things. And nobody is to follow you up to know. I've been doing these things over the years in Kenya here. And that's why if I'm here or I'm not, whatever the impact is the same. Many people don't understand that many of those who are dedicated and praying for the world, they are silent. They are not on stage. Yeah, they are not on stage. I'll be talking more about these things in future, and some of my experiences also, and how you can know. Don't look down on yourself. God can show you a revelation, and that revelation is a global something. It's not just informing you that this is what is going to happen. It's showing you so that you make a call for intervention. Revelations in form of prophecy, the purpose of revealing them or exposing those is that people should begin to pray to alter that thing that is coming. As Christians on the path, you just have to do your own bit, because you are running a race, and which only you can run that race well. Yeah. What happens after you have made your calls or prayers towards certain world events? you've done your part. Yeah. So these things, I will be illuminating them, whereby we will see that what we'll be doing here will not be exactly like a Bible study. We know the word, and we know the word, but we need to know what others do not know. Yeah. And those things, they become a privilege. Not just privilege, but they carry responsibility. Yeah. They carry responsibility. So I think there are many things in my mind. So let me stop here, because if I continue to talk, we might linger on, and because each of these things should be, these areas should be particular sermons, so that details can be brought out and you will know that you have learned this or that.